Apple's hardware engineering team has been quietly pulling off a bit of a heist, and honestly, I'm not even mad at it. Think about it. Late last year, they dropped the redesigned M4 Mac Mini, which instantly became arguably the single best value in the entire tech landscape. Just a ridiculously powerful desktop for a surprisingly low entry price. So naturally, the question became, what happens when they bring that exact same energy to their most popular computer? Well, this is it. The new M4 MacBook Air. On paper, it looks like the ultimate checklist of exactly what everyone has been asking for. We get the brand new M4 architecture. The entry-level model finally starts with 16 gigabytes of RAM by default. There is a sneaky, subtle battery capacity upgrade, better webcam tech, faster port speeds, and a brand new colorway. But here is the actual kicker: the price tags didn't go up. In fact, Apple actually brought the baseline price back down to that legendary $999 mark. In a world where every single piece of tech seems to get 10 to 20% more expensive every single year, seeing Apple give you twice the baseline memory, a faster chip, and a price cut, that is a massive win. But as always with the tech world, the spec sheet only tells half the story. Is this actually a flawless victory for the average buyer? Or are there hidden compromises tucked inside this familiar aluminum chassis? Let's find out. Music shifts to a lighter, steady rhythm. Camera switches to a wide desk view, tracking the presenter holding the laptop. It is honestly pretty wild to look back at the historical arc of the MacBook Air line. If you cast your mind back to the very beginning, the original Air was this mind-blowing spectacle of design. Steve Jobs literally pulled it out of a manila envelope. But if we are being completely honest, it was also deeply impractical. It only had one usable USB port hidden behind a weird flip-down door, it ran incredibly hot, and it cost a fortune. Over the next decade, it transitioned into a utilitarian icon. It kept a slightly outdated, thick bezel design for way too long, but it became the default, reliable college laptop because it was practically indestructible and hit that sweet $999 sweet spot. Then came the Apple Silicon Revolution. When the M2 generation arrived with a gorgeous flat chassis redesign, Apple bumped the entry price up by $200 to $1,199. And the tech community collectively kind of went, alright, fine, it's beautiful and efficient, so we'll pay the premium. But now, we are sitting here with the M4 generation, and Apple has retrograded the price back to $999 while fixing the single biggest flaw of modern base model Macs: the stingy 8 gigabytes of starting RAM. Now, if you look at this machine from across a room, you are going to experience a massive case of déjà vu. Visually, almost nothing has physically changed about the external layout. You are still looking at the exact same incredibly comfortable chiclet keyboard. There are no visible speaker grills flanking the sides because the audio still cleverly bounces out of the hinge mechanism. You still get MagSafe charging, a high-quality headphone jack, and 2 Thunderbolt ports on the left flank. Turn it on, and you are greeted by the exact same 60Hz LCD panel complete with the camera notch eating into the top center of your display. This is very explicitly still the exact MacBook Air template we've known for a few years. It's an exercise in extreme visual continuity. If you want to get incredibly nerdy and play a real-life game of Spot the Difference, there are exactly 3 external or structural changes to track here. First, if you look closely at the function row, the icon stamped onto the microphone mute button has a slightly updated graphic design. Riveting stuff, I know. Second, the webcam housed inside that notch has been upgraded to a 12-megapixel sensor that supports center stage. So if you are on a Zoom call or a FaceTime link and you move around your room, the camera field of view will digitally crop and pan to track your movement. It works perfectly fine, though personally, I usually toggle it off because I prefer a locked, predictable framing. Third, if you dig deep into the regulatory spec sheets on Apple's website, you will notice that the physical capacity of the lithium-ion battery cells inside has subtly increased. It stepped up from 52.6 watt-hours in the previous iteration to 53.8 watt-hours in this chassis. That is roughly a 2% bump in raw physical capacity. It's not going to completely alter your daily battery life, but hey, extra efficiency is extra efficiency. The absolute easiest way to tell the world that you have the latest and greatest machine, though, is the new color option. It's called Sky Blue, and it completely replaces the old space gray option in the lineup. But calling it sky blue is a bit of a stretch. It is essentially the LaCroix of aluminum anodization. It feels like the manufacturing plant just whispered the word ocean over a batch of silver laptops right before they sealed the retail boxes. If you set it directly on top of a pure white desk or next to a dark black sleeve, you can faintly catch a gorgeous, icy blue tint. But the second it catches warm indoor lighting or sits next to an actually blue object, it instantly camouflages itself back into standard metallic silver. It's incredibly subtle, incredibly clean, but barely blue. The host picks up a retail box, showing a slight scuff or unboxing anomaly to add a layer of casual authenticity. Speaking of retail boxes, my specific review unit arrived with a bizarre little quirk. Right out of the brown cardboard shipping container, the corner of the white Apple box had this weird, dark reddish-brown smear on it. It honestly looks like someone accidentally nicked their finger or bled on the packaging line. It's a completely harmless anomaly, but it's a funny reminder that actual human beings are packaging these premium pieces of glass and metal. I hope whoever handled it at the fulfillment center is doing totally fine. Anyway, let's talk about the real heart of this entire update, the M4 silicon. We already have a very clear picture of what this chip can do. We saw its raw single-core power debut inside the incredibly thin iPad Pro, and we saw how well it stretches its legs when paired with an active cooling fan inside the desktop Mac Mini. But the environment inside a MacBook Air is completely different. This machine is entirely passively cooled. There are absolutely no moving fans inside this wedge profile. It relies entirely on structural thermal dissipation to keep its temperatures in check. What that means for you in the real world is a very specific performance profile where short-burst workloads are exceptional, snapping instantly with zero lag on application launches. However, sustained heavy loads will trigger thermal throttling to lower the performance ceiling over 10+ minutes, while the neural engine tasks get core-level acceleration for local media and background processing. If you are doing quick, bursty tasks, things like firing up a web browser, launching productivity tools, opening large documents, or doing quick photo edits, this laptop feels every bit as blindingly fast as an expensive MacBook Pro. It is incredibly snappy. Where the fanless design catches up to you is during sustained, heavy processing cycles. If you ask it to render out a massive 3D asset or export a massive multi-layered video project, the heat will gradually build up inside the aluminum chassis. Because there is no fan to forcefully push that heat out, the system will intentionally scale back its peak clock speeds to keep things safe and cool to the touch. But here is the fascinating part about where Apple Silicon is right now. The performance baseline is so absurdly high that even when this machine throttles, it is still doing things that would have completely melted a premium pro-level laptop from just a few years ago. To test this out, I threw a heavy timeline loaded up with a mix of compressed 4K and native 8K video clips straight into Final Cut Pro. On an entry-level, sub-$1,000 fanless machine, you would traditionally expect the system to choke completely. Instead, dropping the playback preview resolution down to quarter res allowed me to scrub through the timeline smoothly with practically zero hesitation. And when it came time to render out the final file, it completed the export just a few beats slower than its desktop sibling, the Mac Mini. Now, let's be completely practical here. 99% of the people buying a base model MacBook Air are never going to load up an 8K timeline. They aren't going to be writing code compilations, take hours, they aren't loading up massive audio arrangements in Logic Pro, and they certainly aren't trying to run demanding AAA video games at max settings. They are going to have 20 Safari tabs open while handling a video call and manipulating spreadsheet data. The magic of the M4 Air isn't that you should use it for heavy production work every single day. It's the fact that if you ever find yourself in a tight spot where you absolutely need to stretch its legs, the raw horsepower is there to handle it. Tight focus on the display showing a local photo editing workflow. A lot of the engineering focus on the M4 generation centers around its upgraded 16-core neural engine. Apple loves to use their marketing muscle to push local generative software features, showing things like image generation tools rendering graphics on device faster than ever before. To me, a lot of those built-in generation tools feel like a fun gimmick you use twice and then completely forget about. Where that extra AI processing power actually matters is inside the applications you already use. If you use an app like Pixelmator Pro, The machine learning-driven single-click photo enhancement tool finishes its calculations almost instantly. If you are masking out complex backgrounds in video software or using automated audio separation tools, that specialized hardware processing makes a tangible, time-saving difference. If I have one overarching complaint about the daily experience of using this laptop, it has to be the screen. Now, I fully admit that I am deeply spoiled because my main daily driver is a high-end MacBook Pro. I am totally used to seeing stunning mini LED panels with deep contrast, promotion high refresh rates that scale smoothly up to 120 Hz, and massive peak brightness levels. Apple, in typical fashion, fiercely guards those display technologies to create a clear dividing line between the Air and the Pro lineups. You cannot get promotion here. You cannot opt for a mini LED panel. You can't even pay an extra premium to get the matte nanotexture display coating to cut down on ambient glare. The standard 60 Hz LCD on the Air is perfectly bright, sharp, and color-accurate for everyday tasks. Most casual buyers will open it up, think it looks great, and never give it a second thought. But personally, I would absolutely love to see Apple offer an optional upgrade path to get a high refresh rate display on the lighter Air chassis. The battery capacity and processor are easily powerful enough to handle it. Music subtly swells toward a concluding beat. The presenter closes the laptop lid with a satisfying snap and looks directly at the camera. So, let's bring it back to the big ultimate question that we have to ask every single year. Can you actually buy the absolute cheapest entry-level $999 baseline model and still have an excellent experience? This year, for the first time in a very long time, the answer is a resounding, absolute yes. By making 16 gigabytes of unified memory the baseline standard, Apple completely eliminated the single biggest bottleneck that used to plague their entry-level computers. It means this machine won't constantly run out of physical memory and rely on slow virtual swap space on your storage drive just because you have too many browser tabs open. Pair that with 256 gigabytes of fast solid-state storage, and you have a baseline configuration that is genuinely future-proof for the vast majority of normal users. Of course, if you want to upgrade the internal storage or the memory beyond that base tier, Apple's configuration pricing remains borderline extortionate. Upgrading components at the time of purchase is still incredibly expensive, so sticking to the base model is where the real value lives. With that said, if your budget is incredibly tight and you are looking for the absolute lowest barrier to entry into the Mac ecosystem, keep an eye on retail clearouts for the previous M3 generation. You can frequently find the older 8GB model on deep discount at major third-party retailers for around $799. If your daily workflow is incredibly light, literally just checking emails and streaming video content, that older model is still a spectacular value. But if you are upgrading from an ancient, loud, overheating Intel-based laptop, or if you simply want a beautifully built, silently efficient machine that will easily last you the next 5 to 7 years without breaking a sweat, the base M4 MacBook Air is an absolute home run. It might look a little boring on the outside, and the new color might barely qualify as blue, but beneath that familiar exterior, it is easily one of the most capable, easy-to-recommend laptops on the planet. But let me know what you think. Are you jumping on the 16GB base model train? Or are you holding out for a true screen upgrade down the road? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace. The screen fades to black as the music rolls out smoothly.